Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a program that talks about breeding of terrorism and its impact on South Asian nations. Let's begin with the headlines first. Pakistan lands in blacklist of Asia Pacific Group of FATF. Pakistan Army aiding terrorists to cross line of control. ISIS claims deadly wedding reception bombing in Afghanistan. And deadly blast kills 4 people in Balochistan. In a major setback to Pakistan, Asia Pacific Group, a major regional affiliate of Financial Action Task Force, has blacklisted Pakistan for its failure to curb terror funding. This is a significant step by APG ahead of FATF's meeting in October, where the primary body of the terror financing watchdog will decide on Pakistan's fate. In order to avoid adverse decision by FATF, Pakistan is now taking the route of lies and fiction by registering fake FIRs against several terror groups, assuming that it will reduce its chances of getting blacklisted by FATF. Have a look. The Asia Pacific Group of the Global Watchdog for Terror Financing and Money Laundering has put up Pakistan in the Enhanced Expedited Follow-up List or Blacklist for its failure to meet its standards. In the latest meeting of APG, Pakistan has failed miserably to show improvements in set parameters for financial systems. On a separate move, Pakistan has again resorted to misleading the global community just days before the crucial meeting of the Financial Action Task Force in Bangkok by registering fake and weak police first information reports against terror groups and terrorists operating on its soil. Providing hard evidence about Pakistan's attempt to mislead the global community, well-informed sources reveal that on 1st July, an FIR was registered at Gujranwala police station. According to reliable informers, the FIR was reportedly based on the information provided by a source against a land deal by members of band Dawat wal Irshad, which is subsidiary organization of Lashkar-e-Taiba that is headed by Hafiz Muhammad Saeed. As per legal sources, the FIR has been drafted in lay terms, which certainly do not stand the scrutiny of the law at subsequent stages.
Pakistan has been going very soft on these terror organizations. In fact, there have been reports that the Pakistani army has been supporting these terror groups and they have been providing them launch pads both for Afghanistan as well as for India. Now the point is that FATF of late has been talking to Pakistan in a very stern way and has been pressurizing them that you have to take some stringent actions vis-a-vis these terror organizations or terror groups or these terrorists is concerned. But Pakistan had not been responding, and only one ally within FATF that was supporting Pakistan over and over again was Turkey. But now when majority out of these 39 members, 38 or 36, 37 on one side have been pressurizing Pakistan. Now Pakistan has started taking some steps, but these I would say are just baby steps, very soft steps, because they have not been actually taking any concrete actions. They have registered some FIRs which are being termed as fake FIRs because of the fact that these are very soft FIRs which will not even stand one day in the court of law.
The FIR does not even mention about the time since the land was in possession of LET chief Hafiz Muhammad Saeed and 4 others including Abdul Ghaffar, Hafiz Masood, Amir Hamza and Malik Zafar Iqbal. It also doesn't mention anything about Jamaat-ud-Dawa or Falah Insaniyat Foundation. The FIR features the name of Dawat wal Irshad, which is an old name of Jamaat-ud-Dawa. Legal experts say that apart from the absence of mention of timeline of offence, the FIR also misses the list of role of each individual in the illegal land deal case. The use of generalized words for acts of terrorism instead of specific acts connected with the law clearly shows that the whole exercise is designed to pull the wool over the eyes of the FATF.
Since majority of the activities are being controlled by the Pakistani army, so all the decisions related to various economic development or other decisions also within the government are taken by the Pakistani army, and the government at the helm of affairs or the government of the day is not actually able to do much about these things. Now, terror organizations and these terror funding groups also have been supported by Pakistani Army, as we have been talking about the fact that there are various launching pads supported by Pakistani Army from where these terror groups are being launched towards India or Afghanistan. Now, the basic point over here is that in order to appease everyone, these fake FIRs have been launched, but everybody knows that nothing is going to be done, because since Army is very powerful and Army is the one which is controlling the majority of the affairs within Pakistan.
Adding to the troubles of Pakistan is the top leader's admission about the presence of 30 to 40,000 terrorists in its land. Recently, in his maiden visit to the US as a Prime Minister, Pakistani Premier Imran Khan confessed that about 30 to 40,000 terrorists who had trained and fought in some parts of Afghanistan or Kashmir are operating in his country. The startling confession certainly reinforces India's assertion about terror attacks being launched by terrorist groups present in Pakistani soil.
If Pakistan gets blacklisted at this moment, obviously their currency is sliding in a very fast pace. The inflation is growing at an all-time high, and Pakistan is going to be in deep crisis if FATF backs out. And by deep crisis, I mean to say there going to be a lot of scarcity of essential services also within Pakistan, and inflation is going to skyrocket, because of which what I would say that Pakistan would be on the brink of bankruptcy.
The final meeting of FATF is expected to be held in the first week of October to take a crucial decision, either to put the country into the blacklist, or keep it in the grey list, or to exclude Pakistan from the grey list. Out of the 27-point action plan, there are 7 points related to proscribed outfits involved in terror financing. To save itself from any sanctions by FATF, an intergovernmental body of Pakistan is making weak and fake cases against the proscribed terror outfits, even after knowing that they do not have legal standing other than their blatant attempts of misleading the global terror funding watchdog. Attempts of infiltration by terrorists at the line of control is at an all-time high since the abrogation of Article 370 from the Indian Constitution. The continuous ceasefire violations at the LOC is a clear indication of the fact that Pakistan Army is providing unconditional support to the terrorists operating in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir who are waiting to cross the border and enter Indian territories. We bring you a report.
Terrorists operating from launch pads near the line of control have made more than 10 attempts in the last few days to enter India. According to the Indian Army sources, Pakistan Army is increasing its attempts to push terrorists in the Indian territories, for which it has activated a major communication hub in Kali Ghati area near Neelam Valley in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir to guide them. Even though the notorious terrorists are trying their best to infiltrate into Indian side, the Indian Army has successfully been foiling all the infiltration attempts and attacks that are being initiated by Pakistan from across the border.
As far as infiltration attempts across the line of control are concerned, Pakistan has continued with its efforts to give an impetus to infiltration. However, the Indian Army is deployed all along the line of control, and we have been able to thwart all the attempts by Pakistan to push in infiltrators towards our side.
See, the intentions are very clear: to infiltrate in India, to create chaos and mayhem within the Kashmir Valley. Pakistan does not want peace and tranquility to prevail in Kashmir under any circumstances, because if that happens, then international focus and attention will completely disappear. Now, at whose behest are they doing it? They are doing it at the behest of the Pakistani Army and the ISI, and the major instigators are Jaish-e-Mohammed and LET. Despite the international pressure of FATF, it is the Pakistani Army and the ISI which are now encouraging Jaish-e-Mohammed and LET to act very strongly against India, specifically after 5th of August, when we abrogated Article 370 and 35A.
Reportedly, there have been 4 infiltration bids by the Pakistan border action teams and terrorists in 1 week. The Indian security forces have received intelligence inputs suggesting possibility of a terror attack in the hinterland of Jammu and Kashmir. After receiving intelligence inputs, the Indian Army, Air Force and the security forces bases in Jammu and Kashmir are on high alert to prevent any kind of possible terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistan-backed terror groups.
The Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan, after 5th of August, has gone on record to say that several Pulwama type attacks could take place. Pakistan is hell-bent to initiate several such Pulwama type attacks in the valley. Security forces are very well prepared to foil their attempts, but that notwithstanding, do remember the aggressor always have the advantage of surprise. They have the advantage of surprise, they have the advantage of choosing the point of place where they want to inflict this damage, and they have the advantage of timing.
Apart from using military and terror routes, Pakistan is also using its diplomatic outreach to intervene into Kashmir issue, which according to India is its internal matter. Pakistan, which had approached the UNSC through China, was left baffled after facing major embarrassment at United Nations Security Council's informal meeting on Kashmir. During the closed-door meeting, Pakistan received support only from China, while the remaining 4 permanent members, Britain, France, Russia and the US, supported India and its stand that Kashmir is an internal issue of India. Following the UNSC meeting, Syed Akbaruddin, India's permanent representative to the United Nations, reflected upon the issue of terrorism and the idea of jihad that is being propagated by a particular state in South Asia to incite violence in Jammu and Kashmir.
We are saddened that terrorism is being fueled, language and incendiary talk of jihad is being mentioned by people who should know better. Using terror to try and push your goals is not the way that normal states behave in. No democracy will acknowledge or accept talks when terror thrives. Stop terror to start talks.
The intelligence inputs of Indian security forces have revealed that currently there are about 16 launch pads with the presence of about 200 to 250 terrorists near the LOC in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. A high alert has been sounded in view of Pakistan's attempts to create disturbances in the valley after India abrogated Article 370, ending the temporary special status of Jammu and Kashmir. The Pakistan Army has extensively escalated ceasefire violations in terms of area and weapon in the last few days to support the infiltrators from terror launch pads.
Moving on to Afghanistan, the country is facing dual wrath of terror. A recent attack by ISIS in a wedding reception brought thunderjolts to the country, which was already suffering from the barbarity of the extremist Taliban. The suicide terror attack killed dozens of people while injuring many. The bombing by ISIS has emerged as the deadliest terror attack in Kabul this year, a report. A suicide bomber targeted an Afghan wedding this week, killing around 80 people while leaving several injured. The blast occurred in a western Kabul neighborhood that is home to many of the country's minority Shiite Hazara community. The Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant group operating locally as ISIS of Khorasan province claimed responsibility for the attack. A statement by the terrorist group posted on an IS-linked website confirmed that a Pakistani IS fighter targeted this large Shiite gathering in Kabul. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for many attacks targeting Shiites in the past.
یک آدم گرم میکرد دیگه نفهمیدیم بعد از اون دیگه بسیار وضعیت خراب بود دیگه بسیار زیاد طفلک‌ها اوگار شده بود دیگه بچه جوانا اوگار شده بود زیاد مردم شهید هم شده بود
در یک محفل عروسی بودیم. باز هم یکی از رذل‌ترین اعمال وحشیانه سگ صفتان قرن حاضر رقم خورد در بین محفل عروسی. خدا آمد انتحار کرد، انفجار داد، همه خانواده ها را به خاک خون کشید.
The blast comes as the Taliban and the United States are trying to negotiate an agreement on the withdrawal of US forces in exchange for a Taliban commitment on security and peace talks with Afghanistan's US-backed government. The Taliban denied any involvement, calling the blast forbidden and unjustifiable, but Afghan President Ashraf Ghani said that the group cannot absolve themselves of blame because they provide base to these terrorists from ISIS.
آماج قرار دادن مردم ما در مراسم خوشی، مکاتب، مساجد، بازارها و مکانهای عامه نشان دهنده قساوت یک گروه حراس افغان است که برای کشتن مردم بیگناه ما کمر بستند. طالبان با نکوهش این حمله نمیتوانند خود را تبرئه کنند، زیرا آنان خود فراهم کننده بستر برای فعالیت توریستان.
The suicide bomber stood in the middle of the dancing, clapping crowd as hundreds of Afghan children and adults celebrated the wedding in a joyous release from Kabul's strain of war. Then, in a flash, the terrorist detonated his explosive-filled vest, killing dozens. The groom Mirwais Ilmi recalled greeting smiling guests in the afternoon before seeing their bodies being carried out hours later.
عشای نیمی تقاضایش هست که خوش باشه. خوش باشه، اما خوشی ما گرفتن ازم. دیگه چیز نداره کس. اون میگه یک شب گور و شب عروسی داره. ما به حساب خوشی به خوشی خود دارم. اما قد جوان که نامزاد است، اما قد جوان از دل من میاین امروز. در شب عروسی چطور شده؟ تو جوانا بودن نمی به خدا باور نه که در محفل ما که پنج شب بعدش این شب جمعه عروسیش بود شهید شد رفت. این آدم بود که در روز از عروسیش دیر نشده بود این میار دولت کماست.
Kabul's huge, brightly lit wedding halls are centers of community life, with thousands of dollars spent on a single evening. Fighters have periodically struck Afghan weddings, which are seen as easy targets because they frequently lack rigorous security precautions. The blast at the wedding hall known as Dubai City shattered a period of relative calm in Kabul.
ما دردهای زیاد دیدیم ولی ایره به تمام دنیا میگیم که ما این خاک خدا رها کردنی نیستیم. اگر این انتحاری باشه و صدها انتحاری دیگه، این خاک ماست، این جای ماست، حق ماست. ما آزادی میخواییم، صلح میخواییم، نه همچون انتحاری‌های وحشتناک.
The emergence of the Islamic State affiliate in recent years might be the greatest threat to Afghan civilians, as the US and Taliban seek an agreement to end nearly 18 years of fighting. While the US wants Taliban assurances that Afghanistan will no longer be used as a launchpad for global terror attacks, there appears to be no guarantees of protection for Afghan civilians. The suicide bombing in Kabul was followed by another deadly terror attack in Jalalabad. The blasts occurred in Afghanistan at a time when the country was preparing to celebrate its 100th Independence Day. Afghanistan saw the world's deadliest conflict in 2018. According to the United Nations, more civilians died in Afghanistan last year than in the past decade. Over 32,000 civilians have been killed in Afghanistan in the past 10 years. Balochistan has been witnessing slew of attacks from Pakistan-sponsored terrorists in recent weeks. This week again, a powerful bomb went off inside a mosque during Friday prayers in southwest Pakistan's Quetta city, killing around 5 people and wounding many. The attacks in Quetta have been targeting minority Shia community and law enforcement agencies, which clearly showcases the poor state of minorities and weak law and order situation in a mineral-rich province of Pakistan. A report.
A blast inside a mosque in the Kuchlak town area of Quetta The provincial capital of the Balochistan province of Pakistan killed 4 people, including the prayer leader Ahmadullah Akhundzada, the brother of Afghan Taliban chief Hibatullah Akhundzada. Quetta's chief of police Abdul Razak Chima said that the blast was carried out through a timed device that was planted under the wooden chair of the prayer leader.
नमाज के लिए कुछ टाइम था, ऐसा कुछ टाइम था, उसके बाद फिर धमाका हो गया, लोग सारा भाग गया, कुछ जख्मी हो गया, कुछ मर गया। बस ये जो जख्मी हम लोगों ने इधर उठा के लेकर आया, वो बाकी जो शहीद था वो उधर पड़ा हुआ था, उसको बताने के बाद में किसने उठा के लाया।
There are a number of reasons for targeting Baloch people, because this is the region which never wanted to be part of Pakistani nation. They wanted a separate state for themselves at the time of partition. The Pakistani government, has virtually colonized this region of Balochistan, which is called Balochistan. So they treat it as an occupied territory. They treat it as a colony.
One of the reasons behind violence against Hazaras is sectarian dispute. The Hazaras are more vulnerable to being attacked than other Shias because their typical Mongolian features disclose their identity, making them easily recognizable. Islamabad has proved its failure repeatedly when it comes to safeguarding the lives of Shia Muslims in Pakistan. People in Balochistan have crossed their level of saturation in facing the atrocities by Pakistan Army. Their struggle for freedom and dignity are routinely suppressed by Islamabad's forces that include ISI and the Pakistan Army, who sponsor terror groups like Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan to carry out mass massacres in the region.
They want peace, they want development, they want to settle down properly. Their land is being confiscated. They are being targeted when they talk about freedom and justice. Large number of people were killed in the past several years, decades. They don't allow natural leadership to emerge, and they are struggling for it. And they have been targeted by both the government of Pakistan as well as the militant based in Pakistan.
People of Pakistan had elected Imran Khan government with high hopes of seeing peace and tranquility in the nation. But in contrary to their expectations, Imran Khan government failed miserably in securing the interest of his people. The law and order situation of the country is at an all-time low. The condition of minorities in Pakistan is deteriorating with each passing day. They are being subjected to beastly treatment by the Pakistan Army and the terrorists who are killing them almost every day.
Day in and day out we see, the religious places, the mosques, the Imam Bargas, their Sufi shrines are being targeted, and target killings are taking place of individual leaders or activists or human rights activists. This is the thing. The Pakistani military establishment using these militants not only to create problem in Afghanistan or in India, another region of Central Asia, but also it is using these militants to suppress secular democratic forces or nationalist forces within Pakistan. So these militants have used on two fronts. One is outside the country and then within the country as well.
Pakistan has shown its most insensitive side when it comes to controlling the situation in Balochistan. As the sensitive citizens of the global world, we believe that the people of Balochistan deserve better than being oppressed by Rawalpindi and Islamabad. Also, instead of attacking and destroying the Baloch, Sindhis, Pashtuns or Muhajirs, The Pakistani military establishment should focus on eliminating safe havens for international terrorists like Al-Qaeda, ISIS and the Afghan and Pakistani Taliban.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We will be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@aniin.com. This is Surbhi Sharma signing off on the behalf of entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.